Good morning. Today we're going to be taking a look at the XRP price action, the liquidity heat map, and the Sigma coin. So, all right, checking out with what we have here, we've got ourselves that flush that we had yesterday. So the question is, now we're all kind of wondering, was that the bottom? Was that it? We do have a falling wedge here, right? So we have this 5-wave move to the downside that kind of wrapped up the correction. That is very indicative of a falling completion pattern that you end up having here for XRP. So that is bullish, right? So we have a bullish falling wedge. We've got ourselves a breakout back test that's now playing out that is very similar to what we were modeling our Stellar Lumens price action before we collapsed. So if you remember, we had Stellar Lumens giving us this potential breakout right here. We were expecting that to be right here in this zone. And sadly, that did not happen. We ended up just capitulating through because there was a massive amount of leverage that they swept into and took out to the downside. And that's what led to this breakdown. But now the question is, are we trying again with the same fractal, right? So here's your breakdown to the downside. 5-wave finishing move to finish off the level. This is very similar to the aggressive breakdown that Stellar Lumens had that had less overall leverage, so it was less choppy, right? From there, we bounced back tested, grinded up. We ended up grinding up with 5 waves, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we back test into that main supply area, which is what we're doing right now here on this fib level, which is actually pretty cool. So assuming that this is in fact now following along with Stellar Lumens play, it's a little short of that fib, which is interesting. So we'll keep an eye on that. This is just a thinking out loud concept here. Then we could expect a aggressive run up here over the next 24 hours into the mid-range, pushing us up to the 0.5 and sweeping the liquidity back up to 128, 129er. And then from there, we could continue squeezing all the way to the top of the range, where we would then move up to, in this case, back into the supply and close that inefficiency right here and hit the 21-day moving average, which would take us up to 134. So that'd be then a consolidation period where we would play out for another day or so, and then we would have another squeeze and then another pullback, and away we go. And we would have to do all this still. So that would be an interesting kind of breakdown to see how that plays. And the question would be whether or not it needs that much time to play out, or if we're able to consolidate here and continue higher without one more back test, but probably not. So this is what I'll be personally watching. Obviously, we do not want new lows. That's still, of course, in the cards. We could be maybe somewhere over here where we finish to the downside and then we grind up, and then there's one more capitulation sweep. So we'll be waiting and watching this level. But as of right now, my thesis for the bullish case is that we are going to be looking at a back test here that ultimately is modeling what Stellar Lumens did and it push higher over the next, today. So we'll see how that plays. All right, then jumping into liquidity, we do have some short-term liquidity floating around here that they're trying to tap into right now on the low end. So they're just kind of trying to get these guys, but we do have it stacking here above at 125 on the 12-hour. Zooming out, we don't see a lot of liquidity heat as much anymore, as we've had this particular product change its next day. But going into the week, you can see we have liquidity all the way up to this 136 level, which would align with this push all the way back up to the 134 to even as high as 136 level, right up in here to that 21-day moving average. So we do have that in our corner. And then finally, we have the Sigma coin playing out a beautiful 5 waves, ABC, and then it looks like we're not quite done with our corrections. So I guess this would be a wave 1, wave 2, but man, we had a beautiful buy come in, immediately destroyed, which is normal for memes right now, and the way the market is feeling for everybody. So that's kind of cool to see that the buying is showing up to the picture. And now, ultimately on the daily, we're still just resetting this stochastic RSI, and we're getting close to bottoming into the zone that we would expect with, not quite everyone believing that this is go time. So we will wait, watch, and see. So ultimately, that's the takeaway. Sigma still hasn't broken anything with its breakout and pullback for the coin for that particular candle there. We have liquidity stacked up into the area that we would expect us to squeeze up to, with a lot of it up ahead above us. And then finally, we have our coin itself mimicking and possibly completing the equivalent move that we had here on stellar lumens at the very bottom. The only thing we're going to watch is these fib levels that aren't necessarily matching just yet. But maybe that's just kind of how it plays for XRP here, a little bit more aggressive buyback after such a huge smackdown. So yeah, that's ultimately the breakdown. We'll check in tomorrow, and we'll be watching and seeing if we can get a nice little news narrative smack to the upside playing out here. So talk to you soon, and thanks so much for watching.